Death. You know, I think it's the thing humanity tries hardest to avoid. But no matter how hard we try, it's around us, it's within us, and it gets every single one of us in the end. So is death the ultimate curse? Is there really nothing we can do about it? Are we cursed to just have desires in us that lead us to death? Death of soul, death of body, and death of mind. Is death our final end? The Bible defines the cause of death as sin, and it speaks of it as a corruption of humanity's core being. It's like our power source has just been torn out of us, and so we just go from one charging station to another, hoping to be refilled, but never quite getting there. See, your parents fighting is not the problem. There's a deeper core issue. Your addictive, selfish behavior is not the problem. There's a deeper core issue. Your constant seeking to please and drivenness to succeed is not the primary issue. There's a deeper core problem. According to Jesus, sin is our core problem, and it's a chosen slave master. It's something that's been done to us, but it's also something we've chosen to embrace. There are a few different ways the Bible defines sin, but let's go with the simplest. Sin is anything that causes us to live less than fully human. In Ephesians 2, Paul is about to talk about the generous grace of God, the salvation of Jesus. But before Paul talks about the solution, Paul identifies the problem, and he does so with some really graphic and vivid descriptions of the human sin condition. Apart from Jesus, Paul says, you're stuck, you're dead in sin, stuck in the trespasses and sins in which you are cursed to walk. Paul is saying that what sin does is it causes you to be a slave to habit. It's like being stuck in a rut, and no matter how many times you try and get out of it, you inevitably slip back into it. Paul goes on to say that we're a slave to culture. He says we follow the course of this world, following the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that works in the sons of disobedience. What he means by this is sin makes us a slave to the culture around us. And it's not just the culture. There's actually evil spiritual forces at work that use culture to keep you and I enslaved. But the result of all of this is that apart from Jesus, we live indulging in our flesh, doing whatever our body and our mind want to do. Basically, we become creatures of instinct, almost animalistic, certainly not fully human. Paul goes on and uses a phrase, children of wrath. Another way you could put this is children of sin, meaning that we're born into sin. I am conceived in sin. I'm the product, the offspring of sin. From my very birth, I am sinful. Now, this is a pretty graphic description of the human sin condition, and that's really intentional on Paul's part. But I have actually just taken Paul's words and put them into the present tense. And the reason I did that is because for anyone who has not put their faith in Jesus, what I just said is your present reality. You are a slave to habit, to culture, and to instinct. However, if you go and you read Ephesians chapter 2, verse 1 through 3 for yourself, you're going to find out something really amazing. Paul says that for those of us who have put our trust in Jesus to free us from the power of sin and death, all of those things are in the past. You're no longer a slave to habit, no longer a slave to culture, no longer a slave to instinct. And that's amazing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The long and short of it, though, is that apart from Jesus, we are dead in sin. The issue we have then is recognizing sin, seeing it for what it is. Most of us haven't even begun to acknowledge that at our core, we are dead in sin. In the book of Romans chapter 7, Paul tells us that the law is like God's x-ray for the human condition. It wasn't given so you could know how to please God. It wasn't given so that you could go and go check, 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 and go through the checklist of the 10 Commandments and go, oh yay, now I've pleased God. God knew you were never going to be able to complete it. That wasn't its point. The point of the Ten Commandments was to expose sin for what it was, the evil poison that's destroying humanity. So the goal of the law? To expose sin so that it could be destroyed. So tonight, I want you to look at the law. I want you to take a close look at the X-ray and see if you're willing to acknowledge the sin that it's revealing in you, to maybe acknowledge the problem that it exposes in you and in humanity as a whole. There is a solution, but first, we have to acknowledge that there's a problem.